Well, as the choir take their seats, our thanks to them and to Anne, and to all our musicians who have made this Christmas time very special. Lots of other people have helped us too to put on the program. I'm thinking of the refreshments we're about to enjoy in half an hour or so. And of course, those who a few weeks ago went to all the trouble of putting up the lights and the Christmas tree and the candles. Our thanks to all of you for making Christmas 2014 very special. And as Miles said at the outset tonight, this is our last occasion in this wonderful old building. But don't despair. Come back in about 2 years' time, and there'll be something even more spectacular to enjoy Christmas with. Well, it's a Saturday afternoon. A man is relaxing at home, watching the sport on TV, like all the men do. And his wife walks into the lounge and with excitement says, "Honey, you know your brand new sports car? Well, the airbags work." And with that, she marches out of the room. Now, that's one way of looking at it, isn't it? The airbags work. I'm not so sure the man saw it that way. Without the right perspective, it's easy to miss something really important. Do you know how the world came to hear about the first ever manned plane flight? The famous American aviators and inventors Wilbur and Orville Wright repeatedly tried to fly until on December the 17th, 1903, off the sand dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, they did what had never been done before. They actually flew. And elated, they wired their sister Catherine. Flown 120 feet. Stop. We'll be home for Christmas. Stop. And hastily, Catherine ran down the street and shoved the telegram with the news scoop of the century at the city editor of the local newspaper. He carefully read the telegram, smiled, and said, Well, how nice. The boys will be home for Christmas." Man had flown. One of the greatest human achievements that would change the world, and the newspaper editor missed it entirely. We can do the same thing with Christmas, can't we? A few years ago, a large high street retailer ran a Christmas advertising campaign, and various celebrities were asked to describe Christmas in just 3 words. "Eating too much," said the actress Honor Blackman. "Morecambe and Wise," said Redgrave and Pinsent, the Olympic rowers. Other suggestions were filling the stocking, the Queen's speech, last-minute shopping, before the inevitable finale, Christmas in 3 words, Marks and Spencer. If that's all Christmas is for us, we're missing the point. So here it is in 3 little words. We heard them in our New Testament reading from Matthew's Gospel. God with us. The virgin shall be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Let me give you some angles by which to explore that extraordinary truth. Here's the first: an unusual birth. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. An unusual birth. That is a line that you won't find in any other biography, because biographers assume that we know about the birds and the bees. But Matthew wants us to understand from the outset that the birth of Jesus challenges all our assumptions. There's never been a birth like it. Jesus had a human mother, Mary, but not a human father. Joseph was not involved in the biological process at all. No wonder poor Joseph needed an explanation, which is what he gets in the next verse of the reading. But after Joseph had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. That's twice in those verses that we are told that Jesus is not biologically the son of Joseph. My friends, the central claim of Christianity is that in Jesus of Nazareth, God steps into the world in a unique way. Mary was pregnant through the Holy Spirit. No sexual relations, no human sperm donor, no test tube baby. This is a work of God. Now, in everything else, the arrival of Jesus was normal. He wasn't dropped to earth in a spaceship. Jesus is no extraterrestrial unable to feel our pain or understand what it means to be human. He will cry and thirst. He will eat and smile, just like any other human being. No Martian blood will flow through his veins. Mary is with child, but supernaturally. Now, science scratches its head at that. But I suggest our real problem with the birth of Jesus is not his biochemistry. It's with God and God's freedom to work in ways that we just can't explain. That's why people will sometimes say to me, Peter, I can't believe in the virgin birth at the start of Jesus' life, or in his rising from the dead at the end of his life, or in the miracles he did in between. And so they take an airbrush to the pages of the Bible and they delete the parts they can't accept until really there isn't much left. But we're being told from the very beginning that Jesus is different. He is both human and divine, without comparison, the one and only. Nobody like him before or since. Jesus, the Son of God, became human. When we were conceived, it was the beginning of a person who had never existed before. When Jesus was conceived, he'd existed for all eternity, but stepped into his own creation as a man. So that's the first angle to Christmas, an unusual birth. In Jesus, God became man, which begs, I think, the question, why? Why does God become man? And I think the answer is the second angle on Christmas. Actually, it's the angel's angle in verse 21. The angel says to Joseph in the dream, she will give birth to a son, Joseph, and you are to give him the name Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. The angel appeared to Joseph in a dream. How do you get on with angels, eh? Do you believe in them? A vicar who was about to take the funeral of a notorious criminal named John received a visit from the dead man's brother, Peter. Vicar, said this man, when in the funeral service you come to your talk, I want you to say, whatever the public think, that at heart John was a real angel. And if you say that, well, there'll be a big sum for church funds. However, if you don't say that, John was a real angel, be worried. Our family can get very nasty, and with you. The following 2 nights, the vicar hardly slept. But soon it was the funeral and his address. So after his introduction, he paused and said, what I must say about John is this. He was a real angel compared to his brother Peter. Do you believe an angel is just a description for a nice or likable person? Or do you believe, as this passage from Matthew reminds us, that angels open windows to show us that space and time is not all there is? Never believe, folks, that only what you can see is real. That tree that you bought from the garden center and put up in your front room for Christmas, you may think that all you see is a wonderful Christmas tree, but the reality is much more. Norwegian scientists are now telling us that 25,000 bugs may be hiding among the needles. But don't worry, most live inside the tree and quickly dry out and die. but never believe that only what you can see is real. So what was the angel's angle? Joseph, you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. From their sins. Now that's an uncomfortable reality that we have to face about ourselves. Apparently, according to the Evening Chronicle, men who live in the northeast are not very good at going to the doctors. Probably true of the men in the southwest as well. Says the Evening Chronicle, trying to get men to go to the doctor is like trying to get them to do the washing up. They hate it. Men are reluctant to face physical health realities. They can be very seriously at risk without knowing it. But many men and women will not face spiritual health realities. And the coming of Jesus tells us why we need to. Because we are a people who need to be rescued from our sins. Sins. That's a big Bible word. Sin. What's it all about? Well, let me tell you where I was 2 days ago on Friday afternoon. I was in Dorchester. Not to do last-minute Christmas shopping, but to attend a driver awareness course put on by the Dorset Police. It was either that or 3 points on my license for speeding. Now, listen, before you give me a hard time, I know that there are lots of people in this room who have been on exactly the same course, including at least one former minister of this church, Steve Brady. So there I was with about 30 others who, like me, had probably 1,000 better things to do 6 days before Christmas. Why were we there? Well, I can tell you why Mervyn was there, because he told us. Mervyn was there because he'd driven a tractor the wrong way up the motorway. But he looked around and said, we're here because we've all broken the law. Now, when Mervyn said that, I thought to myself, you may have broken the law, Mervyn, but I was only driving down the avenue off the LV roundabout at 34 miles an hour, just a little bit over the limit. And I was in a rush, by the way, to conduct a funeral in Poole. In fact, a few months ago when I received the official police notice of intention to prosecute, I contemplated writing, "Dear Mr. Policeman, please let me off. Your mobile camera van was hidden from view, and I only just exceeded the speed limit, and I was in a hurry to bury someone." But what kind of defense is that? It didn't matter if I had broken the law by a lot or by a little. It didn't matter if I was a minister in a rush to carry out his duties or a convicted mass murderer driving a stolen and uninsured vehicle. I had broken the law. Law breaking. That's one of the pictures the Bible means by the word sin. And it's the problem which Jesus comes to rescue us from. Not driving over the speed limit, but living without God at the center of our lives. You see, here is the great law of the universe. Love God with everything you've got and love your neighbor as yourself. But we don't live like that, do we? Most of us treat God like we treat our plumber. Last time you had water running down the wall because the pipes burst, you ran into the kitchen and said, "What's the plumber's name again? I can't remember his name. Where's his telephone number? Wasn't it on the fridge door?" I think we can treat God like that. We ignore him. We reject him. We don't think about him. We don't thank him. Yet God made us. He gave us life. He gave us his blessings. He gave us gifts. He gave us minds. And yet we've largely rejected him. We've mainly ignored him. And only when there's a crisis do we say, "Where's God? What's his name? Where's his number?" That's the problem we've got. Sin is speeding through life with me, not God, at the center, so that I'm in the driving seat, so that I will determine my own laws, my own happiness, I'll be the God of my own life. And it's no good saying, I'm not as bad as him or her. He's broken the law by miles. I've only just crossed it. So Jesus came into the world to save us from the consequences of our God-ignoring life. For Jesus kept the moral law of the universe. He loved God and others perfectly. And he went to the cross to pay the fine with his righteous life, which with all our self-centered living, we could never pay ourselves. My friends, that's why Jesus became man, so that we might be rescued in our relationship to God and enjoy his forgiveness and his freedom. And wouldn't that be amazing if we really got what Christmas was all about this year in those 3 words, God with us? One last angle on Christmas before I finish. Listen to the angel again. Jesus will save his people from their sins. The angel doesn't say that Jesus will save all people, or good people, or church-going people, or sincere people of any religion. No, he will save his people. So what does that mean? How do I become one of his people this Christmas? Well, think of the Queen doing her Christmas Day broadcast in a few days' time. There she is, surrounded by portraits, with the corgis hanging on her every word. And she sometimes refers to us as you, my people. And that's right. We are her people. We're the people she rules over constitutionally. And when the angel talks about his people, Jesus' people, he means the same. He means the people Jesus rules over, the people who willingly accept Jesus as their king. Now, lots of us started out life under the rule of Elizabeth because we were born under it. But none of us starts out life under the rule of Jesus because we're born with this nature that wants to be in the driving seat and making the rules to suit ourselves. So to be one of his people, you have to become one. There's a definite step to be taken. And it means admitting that up until now, you've not been loving and putting God first as you should. It means asking God's forgiveness for that. And it means accepting Jesus from now on as king over our lives. Imagine that I were to draw a line of people. And this is a line where people stand in relation to the things I've been talking about. One end of the line stands for those people who've already taken that step. And in the room tonight, you'll know who you are. You'll know you've been forgiven, and albeit imperfectly, you're living for Jesus as your king. You're one of his people. Now, the other end of the line stands for those who are much further back. Maybe that's you tonight. Maybe you're unconvinced that any of this is true. Maybe, perhaps though, you're a bit further on, but need to know a little bit more of what it would involve to be one of Christ's people and what it would cost to change or stand up for him in public. But there will be some people, I believe, in the building tonight who are in the middle of that line. You know this is true, what I've been saying. You know enough to take that step, and you'd like to know how. So, as I close, I'm going to say a prayer. The words are on the screen. This is not a prayer that's appropriate for everyone here tonight. If you're at the already one of Christ's people end of the line, you don't need to pray it again, but it's a good reminder of the step that you've already taken at some point in your life. If you're at the other end with much more thinking to do, this prayer wouldn't be appropriate either. But you may be in the middle and you want to take that step. If so, you could use this prayer now to become one of Christ's people this Christmas. So here it is. Let's pray. In the silence of your own heart, pray with me, Lord Jesus Christ, I confess I have not lived for you as my rightful God and King. I've rejected you and so deserve your judgment. And yet you came to die for me, to save me from my sins. I now turn to you. Please forgive me all that is past and come into my life to change me so that I may live for you from this day on. Amen.